Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the FCS Dynasty here on NCAA 06, and we are here really in that final week of the regular season. So the last big chance for various FCS teams around the country to really boost up their playoff resumes to have the opportunity to compete for a national championship. So should be a good one. Have a full slate of games in this episode, which I hope you guys are really excited for. And if you are, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button for me as well if you have to be brand new. We will not waste any time. We will start with Sam Houston State, the number 3 team in the country. They host Southeastern Louisiana, and for Southeast Louisiana, they really need this win in a big way. This is basically a win or go home kind of situation, whereas Sam Houston State, they can take care of business here. They can put themselves in a good spot to get that first round bye and go to the get at least one step closer to the national championship game. So a big game here for both teams by all means. None bigger than for Southeast Louisiana, as their quarterback throws over the middle of the field. It does end up getting intercepted by Kyle McLeod. Kyle McLeod hanging out in the center of the field and does end up getting intercepted here. Sam Houston State, that was perfectly caused by the pressure that they brought to the table. And not only do they get that turnover, they actually start things out in really good field position. We'll see if Sam Houston State can take full advantage of that as Poole makes a nice reception. Now the Bearcats, they find themselves back in the red zone. We'll see if they can go ahead and punch it in though, as Bullock looks over to the left-hand side, finds his receiver, and that will be Sims finding his way into the end zone. Touchdown, Cardiac Cats. And Sam Houston State will draw first blood here in this episode. And the Bearcats, they will take a 10-0 lead for the time being. And Sam Houston State, they will continue to pour it on early in this game. They do not care about Southeastern's playoff chances. And it shows by that total yardage difference. Bearcats coming out, planning to dominate. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Sam Houston State with a 141-19 advantage. An advantage that could only get better, as that's an incredible grab for Craig Gregg, the senior, who has really worked hard to get this opportunity to get additional playing time ever since he's come on campus. Really coming out and making a difference though. And Craig Gregg looking to finish the job possibly. And he does. Touchdown Bearcats. We're now talking about a 24-0 lead. And still we see Southeast Louisiana just getting dominated. 208-24 now. The Lions have not been able to get anything going on offense. And that's going to continue. Not only does that offensive line give up yet another sack, we do also see them give up a fumble. They put the ball on the ground, and the defensive line takes care of the rest of the business. We get ourselves a little bit of a big boy touchdown there. It's now a 31-0 lead, as Bullock looks to extend that lead further before we go into the halftime locker room. We could very well see that happen there. Single coverage, trusting the one-on-one matchup. And his receiver was able to win on the outside. So it does set up first and goal from the 5-yard line. And Bullock is just going to go with the no huddle real fast. Get his boys into the end zone. That's a touchdown for the Cardiac Cats. And it's now 38-0. We'll see if they can keep that up for an entire second half. Or are we going to possibly see a comeback that we have never seen before here? It's going to be really tough for Southeastern. Remember, their season essentially is on the line. A couple plays later, 3rd and 9. Bullock throws over the middle of the field, and we do have an interception. It's picked off as Derek Rice able to make the play on the football. And Southeastern Do they have a tidbit of life? We'll have to find out. But what we do also know is that Southeastern, they do not do anything with the football, and David Bullock will eventually recover from his previous mistake. 58-yard touchdown this ends up being for the Carniac Cats, and exactly what you want to do in this last game of the season. When you're getting closer to that FCS playoff announcement, you want to make a statement, and boy, did the Carniac Cats certainly make one here in their final game of the season. So we'll see if Texas Southern can do the same thing. As it, at least on the surface, looks like they do have a tune-up against Southern, which Southern has really been down horrendous this season. You see Southern's record 3-7. I was actually surprised when this was named a nationally televised game, but there's a lot of custom guys here on this Southern squad. Definitely worth monitoring in this football game. But Texas Southern, one of the best teams in the country, and they are led by their star running back, Roger Murray, who actually does lead the entire NCAA in rushing yards. He is just short of 1,500 yards on the season. He's been phenomenal. But Flair McNair, he wants to make sure the talk is about somebody else. We'll see if Flair McNair can lead the big-time upsets before this season is over. Southern having nothing to lose, so you might as well go all in as McNair throws over the middle, finds a receiver, and that receiver actually does dive into the end zone. That's a touchdown for the Southern Jaguars. So they'll take the lead on the number 2 team in the country. And what Southern is also doing really well is that they're also doing a great job of really stopping that Texas Southern offense. Not really any big plays as of yet, but one thing that is really surprising is that Flair McNair is going to work. He's having some great throws. That was a beautiful throw there in the back pylon in order to set up this touchdown. This is not a very big window to throw in as well. It's the defender does a great job with leverage. And yet Southern with a 10-0 lead. We'll see if they can expand on that here in the final moments of this first half as Flair McNair just dropping dime after dime after dime. I mean, this is incredible what we are truly watching right now as Southern looks to add more points on the board. Before we go into halftime, Flair McNair throws it up, but it's going to be intercepted though. Trying to target that true freshman, Stace Abdul, and it does end up getting intercepted instead. So Texas Southern does not allow to get much more than a 14-0 lead at the break. But we also need to see that Texas Southern offense come out eventually. You know, if it can't be like this forever. And unfortunately, I just don't know if Texas Southern's got it today. I think they're just having a bad day. To have a bad day as well, because this game is important. This is how you go about getting yourself a first-round bye. You got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And right now, Texas Southern is simply not doing that. As now, 14-3 lead. Rain Johnson trying to run over the middle of the field, but Kobe Pace puts the football on the ground. And that is also a very good running back in his own right. He has over 1,000 yards rushing on the season and doing what we thought he needs to do in order for this Southern team to be successful without Justin Jones being on the team anymore. He has since moved on to the NFL. But it still remains 14-3 though. Texas Southern, even though they forced that turnover, and they're also going to get this interception as well. So plenty of interceptions being forced here in the second and third quarter. Can Texas Southern finally do something about the turnovers, right? They have 3 interceptions, well, not 3 interceptions, but 3 turnovers in this game, and they haven't done anything with it. So that being said, Texas Southern, they will go for it on 4th down. Really tired of being complacent. And look at that big time throw. Solomon Less on the money as he now is at over 600 yards receiving on the season. Really not bad for a wide receiver that's playing in a pretty run-heavy offense. And speaking of that run-heavy offense, Roger Murray is going to get the carry here in the red zone. And it will be Texas Southern that will go and punch that in. And the Tigers, just like that, make it just a 4-point game. It's a very close battle. So they do go for the 2-point conversion, actually, and they do get that 2-point conversion. So it really is just a 3-point game as, oh no, Flair McNair throws an interception again. And now Texas Southern on the verge of taking the lead. Just a disaster here for Southern, and just inconsistent quarterback play. While you see this squad at 3-7 right now, we now see the Tigers with a chance to possibly take the lead, or at the very least tie things up. As now Mayhew drops back. He's gonna get some time outside the pocket, fires, finds a receiver, and it's a touchdown for the Texas Southern Tigers. There is a down player on the field. Ashley, one of the corners for the Southern Jaguars, does end up getting hurt there a little bit. So either way, Southern down by 4. Can some magic happen with less than a minute left to play? And sure enough, Colby Pace is going to get the pitch and is going to run it all the way down into the end zone. Touchdown, Jaguars. Will Southern do the unthinkable? Are they going to pull the upset on the number 2 team in college football? This would really shake out the FCS rankings if this result holds. There's still 56 seconds left on the clock though, as we got 1st and 10 from the 29-yard line. Mayhew, he's gonna scramble, he puts the ball on the ground. In Southern, the Jaguars are going to recover the fumble. Oh my, the Jaguars, they now put themselves out in the driver's seat to win this game. All they gotta do, literally, do not turn the football over, as they certainly have the time to run down this clock. 1st and 10 from the 11. They give it to Colby Pace, and look at that. I'm pretty sure that this game is going to be put on ice. Touchdown, Southern. That will give them a 10-point lead with just about less than 30 seconds left, and that is just a perfect way to describe that offense in the second half. Down goes the number 2 team in college football. Texas Southern loses in what really should have been a tune-up game. They are going to be playing in that conference championship next week. Pretty sure they're going up against Alcorn State as well here in these final moments of the season. And can you imagine if they lose next week as well? They could have a skydive down in the NCAA rankings that could suddenly go from a team that, has these aspirations to be a first round bye kind of team, that top 8 seed, to, being a bubble team. This loss definitely hurts the perception of the program. Well, it's a great win at the same time for the Southern Jaguars. And speaking of teams that I thought were going to go to the FCS playoffs, but just have been a massive disappointment, Weber State, they'll go on the road here. They'll take on Sacramento State in what will be the last game of the season for both teams. Now, Sacramento State, they are playing in their 12th game, and not a lot of teams play their 12th game. Most teams play 11, actually, but Sacramento State, they are playing a 12th game because they did schedule an extra non-conference game early on in the season. So, we'll see if this hurts them or not. Either way, Weber State, they're pretty much out of the picture. 5-game losing streak, you just cannot have that nowadays. And we'll see if Weber State can at least play a little bit of spoiler, maybe get Sacramento State out of that running for the top 8. They're sitting at number 10 in the country, so they'll at least be the home team in the first round if their current ranking holds. But they're trying to get a little bit of help here, and winning this game would help them out a little bit. But Weber State, though, the Wildcats, they actually have a little bit of a different idea. They say, screw your resume, we're trying to win a football game as well, as Weber State's trying to win their first game in almost 2 months. I am not making that up. They have been down horrendous. However, they got Sacramento State down 7-0 as we'll see Corey Hall dropping back in the pocket, gets hit right away, but throws a perfect ball for Jacob Hill to come make that catch. The junior has really been playing at an extraordinarily high level that does continue here, as this game will be all knotted up at 7 apiece, as Weber State will punt the football away back to the Sacramento State Hornets. But Brandon Hall puts the ball on the ground and gets a turnover, man. So you love to see that, but somehow Weber State misses that short field goal late in that possession. So not only is Weber State not in the lead, but later on Sacramento State, they will get a field goal themselves, and Sacramento State has a 10-7 lead. Plus, they have the ball too. They will have the football as well to go with that, as that's an interception thrown for Aveline Thomas. And later in the game, 13-7 your score. We'll see if Thomas can lead a touchdown drive, but this could no, it's fumbled. Just that kind of day. And Derek Jackson, he was having a great game today. 6 catches, 114 yards, has the only touchdown score for the Weber State Wildcats today. It was a very defensive battle in this one, as Tama Maska, the sophomore custom, is going to be the one that puts the ball out of the hands of Derek Jackson. And Sacramento State will go on to win this game. A very bitter defensive matchup. 13-7 was your final score, so the Hornets will finish the season with double-digit wins here in the regular season, while Weber State, they lose 6 in a row. They lose their 6th consecutive game. After starting 5-0, they're going to finish the year just 5-6. So we have our first studio update of this episode, and we do get confirmation that Akron will finish a perfect regular season. They finished the year 11-0 and beat their bitter rivals 41-27 in a battle with the wagon wheel. Meanwhile, Eastern Michigan in serious trouble as they lose to Central Michigan in rivalry game action. This 2-touchdown loss will put them outside the top 25 and maybe outside the conference championship too. As for Nicholls State, they might have just clinched their first FCS playoff appearance in this series as they beat the Citadel in their season finale. Nicholls State wins 24-21 to get to 8-3. However, Northwestern State might not be so lucky as they lose to Elon Phoenix in conference play. Northwestern State might be on the bubble here for the FCS playoffs. Tennessee Martin will not have that issue though, as they likely clinch a first-round bye, finishing the season off by beating Mississippi Valley State 28-21. So now we jump back into the FCS not playoff action, but it certainly feels like it, as we have a very critical game here in the Pac-12 conference right now. We got Northern Arizona taking on Montana State, at Montana State by the way, and this is certainly a must-win for the Montana State Bobcats. Montana State, they are not ranked in the top 25, at least not yet, but they win this game, they can get themselves into the top 25 and put themselves in that conversation to go to the FCS playoffs and an at-large. As for Northern Arizona, Arizona comes in number 12 in the country. Winning this game would solidify their chances, but Montana State, they got different plans in mind. How about this to get things going? Montana State, led by their quarterback Maurice Billings, gonna give the Bobcats a 10-0 lead to start things out. It's a good performance thus far, as Tyrone Wolf looks to answer back the call, but ain't nobody picking up though, as Montana State is going to get the interception too. And how about that? Montana State playing some great football. They've been playing really good football in the second half of the season. They have really put themselves in this spot, really running that 3-game winning streak right now. We'll see if they can make it 4, as Wolf's going to hand it off to the tailback, Darryl White, who's going to be running down the sideline, and the Lumberjacks are going to punch it into the end zone. Touchdown, Northern Arizona. and they get that tackle that they are looking for, or that touchdown that they're looking for. And it's back to being a very close game. We'll jump into the second quarter of action. Billings looking over to the right-hand side, looking for Kev Stone, but instead, Jamal Lewis is there to make a play on the football, and he does complete the play. So that will be the second interception that he gets all season long. And still, Northern Arizona can't really do much there on that particular possession. So a chance for Northern Arizona to possibly take the lead. They simply cannot do that right now. So, very close game still. Getting to the final moments of the first half. And Billings, he's having a very competitive game so far. 13 for 16. Can he build off of that? Throwing down the right-hand side and throws a dime. Oh my goodness. 41-yard touchdown pass. And the Bobcats do indeed extend their lead. We're now looking at a 17-7 lead, and Northern Arizona being in a little bit of trouble. So we'll see if Tyrone Wolf can even things out a little bit before we go into that halftime locker room. As Wolf gets his guys quickly, he's going to go speed option to the left-hand side. Goes to Darryl White. White down the sideline. Nobody even touching him. That's going to be a touchdown for the Lumberjacks. And they're going to chop out that halftime deficit, getting it down to just a field goal. So now we go into the second half of action here as Montana State comes out onto the field. However, Maurice Billings does get a little bit shaken up. So a little bit of a different quarterback on the field, but he's doing a fine job leading the offense. He's got a very good running back in the backfield himself. We'll see if the Bobcats use him too. 1st and 10 from the 31-yard line. Back up. Throws to the right-hand side. Throws a dot. He has some cojones. And frankly, if you want to be a great quarterback, whether it's in high school, college, or in the pros, you got to have some cojones every once in a while. And this quarterback, he's got it, right? He definitely has it. And got his guys in a 1st and goal situation inside the 1-yard line where Montana State is going to punch it into the end zone. That is going to be a touchdown for the Montana State Bobcats. Very critical run there. And the Bobcats with a 10-point lead once again. That will put the pressure on Tyrone Wolf. And it looks like he might be folding like a lawn chair under the pressure right now. Jerry Landrum looking to the eyes of Tyrone Murray's soulless eyes and just stares him down. And Limbaum, he's going to get this interception here. Montana State able to tack on a field goal there to make it 27-14. So Lumberjacks now in a spot where they got to drive down the field extremely quickly if they want to have any shot of winning this football game. It's going to go down to his arm. Does he have what it takes? 4th and 15 from the 40-yard line. They need 16 in order to keep the drive alive. Wolf trying to throw the ball, but it ends up being fumbled. It was recovered by one of the Montana State defenders, but it doesn't really matter. It would have been a turnover on downs anyways. Montana State, towards the end of the game, they end up going to win this one. A critical game that they needed. They certainly got it. The Bobcats winning 30-14 at home. And now Northern Arizona, because of this 2-touchdown loss late in the season, they might be sweating things out here when it comes to the FCS playoff selection show. They do not have an automatic qualifying bid right now. So speaking of a team that might need to rely on an automatic bid, we'll check in on James Madison going on the road here for a late season non-conference matchup. They take on the Alcorn State Braves, who recently got themselves into the top 25. They're ranked number 21 in the country, and this could be a very difficult game for Alcorn State. They have to go up against one of the best quarterbacks in the country, Stephen Terry, who is in that Heisman Trophy race right now. He is one of the finalists, and Terry really living up to what he is capable of doing, really putting that trust on that star-studded receiver core who, yeah, they did end up losing a couple of receivers last year ever since, we saw David Foreign go to the NFL. Jody Gentry is at the FBS level. He transferred upward for his final year of eligibility. But there's still a lot of talent on this James Madison squad. And Alcorn State, the Braves are not necessarily known for their defense. This is more of an offensive school. And it's showing here early as Stephen Taylor able to have his way, even getting a dot over the middle of the field. I mean, that's double covered. I don't know what you do with that. Stephen Taylor just finds a way to make it happen. Throw that dot that you're looking for. This ends up being a 56-yard touchdown. Early advantage goes to James Madison. And speaking of those Dukes, they are on the verge of the red zone again, throwing over to the left-hand side. And they do find their receiver. That's Brad Odrowsey, the senior who hasn't really made much of an impact here at James Madison, being shadowed by those receivers I talked about earlier. But he's a pretty good receiver too, and he's making some plays happen. And so is their special teams. Special teams, well, when I'm showing punts or kickoffs, something good is about to go down. And boy, does it go down for Brad Odrowsey, who quickly gets his second touchdown of the game, as the Dukes will carry a 28-0 lead into the fourth quarter. Lockhart even getting involved too. This is one of the backup running backs able to find their way into the end zone. That is the junior in Kyle Lockhart, who usually gets playing time when there's a lot of when there's a pretty significant lead, and that's why you also saw the backup quarterback Hans Heinlein, who's been on this roster for quite some time now. But James Madison, either way, they handle their business. They win this game. Alcorn State, they're not completely done, though. They do have the conference championship. They do get to go against Texas Southern, who's also vulnerable. We've seen them earlier in this episode alone lose to Southern, who went 4-7 to finish the year, right? So anything could happen here, obviously, but definitely a lot riding on that game. And speaking with games that have big implications, we have yet another top 25 matchup in non-conference play. It's the Western Carolina Catamounts here on Senior Day. They're taking on the San Diego State Aztecs here. As San Diego State, they actually, I just checked the conference standings for them off screen. They actually do not have their own fate controlled. They do not have that automatic bid. UNLV might actually get that bid. We'll see how the conference decides to award that automatic bid to. But San Diego State, bottom line, needs to win this game. So we'll see who comes out with more intensity. Western Carolina, this is their last game of the season before the playoffs, possibly. They can secure a top 8 bid right away if they handle business here. However, San Diego State just coming out with a lot more urgency to start things out. Opening drive for the Aztecs there. And this is a clean pocket here for Rusty as well. That's the quarterback for San Diego State, who's able to break multiple tackles too. Even run away from the true freshman, Pistol McNeil, who has been a really good add here for the Catamounts. He's been a great addition to that defense for the Western Carolina Catamounts as they try to prove that, yes, they are capable of winning a national championship game. But San Diego State is going to be up, though, 7-0. But this Western Carolina defense is good. Top 10 in the country in terms of yards allowed. Does that continue to show here? Play action. Rusty got some time. He's going to fall back last second, but his guy comes back and makes a play on the ball. You gotta be kidding me. As Johnson saw that his quarterback was in trouble, makes the leaping grab, because that was not a very well thrown ball at all. And how about that? San Diego State, they get a little bit lucky there. They get now into the goal line here. 1st and goal from the 5-yard line. They hand it out to the running back, and that tailback is going to find his way, finding some pretty good yardage there. A 5-yard touchdown too. And the Aztecs, this is a little bit more surprising here in this FCS game of the week could be that Lee Corso curse. He did choose Western Carolina to win this game, and right now Western Carolina not looking like the team that we've seen for much of the season, and we've seen them struggle like this against Texas Southern earlier on this season, as well as Justin Goodwin able to take advantage of the mishaps for the Western Carolina offense. He gets his third interception of the season and takes that back to the crib as well. So not even done with the first quarter of action. Western Carolina's down 21-0. How do they respond from this big deficit early? Young throws over the middle of the field, but that's also going to be intercepted. Oh no, that's not what you want, as Latavius Workman patrolling the center of the football field and just catches it off the deflection there. And now we'll see San Diego State take over at about midfield. Rusty throwing over the right hand side, and it's gonna be caught. Touchdown Aztecs, and San Diego State gets one up on the scoreboard yet again. 28-0 is your score, and the Catamounts, they just look helpless right now, but there is still a lot of football that's left to be played at the moment. We'll see if they can play a little bit better here in the second quarter, as that's a really good throw over the right hand side. Really the first big play that goes in the positive direction for the Catamounts all day today, but you know, this could be their first touchdown drive. Michael Young, you see his stats, 20 touchdowns and 12 interceptions, but Young's facing some pressure though, has to get rid of it early, and sometimes it's just better to be lucky than it is to be good. That is a touchdown grab off the deflection, but Michael Young does get hurt there. So do we see J.C. Dallas? He is the backup, and when he did come in to service for a beleaguered Michael Young earlier in this season, we actually saw some great plays happen from J.C. Dallas. He's capable of being a starter at the FCS level as well, but maybe he won't have to do too much because San Diego State, they turn the football over for the very first time today, and that does pit Western Carolina inside the 10-yard line, where their tailback is going to do the rest of the work. Marcus Johnson says, "Don't worry, QB, I got you. Put the team on my back," he says, and he certainly does that. So the Catamounts do get it back to a 2-possession game, but right before we get into the halftime locker room, Charles Watt and company, actually Charles Watt and Pistol McNeil, two freshman customs that you guys have submitted, they both get beat. Imagine getting crushed while double covering somebody. Imagine that. That's absolutely insane. So San Diego State takes a 35-14 lead here, as we still have about a minute and a half left to play in this second quarter, and Johnson and company continuing to hurt the Western Carolina secondary. This has been a secondary that's been just great this year, and just the fact that they are playing like this, huge surprise for sure, as the Aztecs will take this opportunity to get yet another touchdown on the board. San Diego State takes a 42-14 lead with less than 40 seconds left in the first half, but Western Carolina does get another one up on the scoreboard at least, but still down very significantly though. This is a 3-possession game, but nobody really scores there in the third quarter. We still have the same score, 45-21, your difference right now, as Western Carolina takes it out of the back of their own end zone, going to try to return it out, trying to get some kind of spark, but just not their day today. Western Carolina just had a bad day to have a bad day. When you have it on national television, you know, there's going to be some different feelings about this team moving forward, as they are now outside of that first round bye range officially. Checking back into other FCS games around the country, and Eastern Illinois had their final game against Rhode Island, as Eastern Illinois finishes a 3-game winning streak, as we see the Panthers beat Rhode Island 52-24 in that other 1 o'clock game. But now we pick things back up in the Big Sky Conference because we have a lot of good games in the Big Sky Conference, this being one of them. Montana has really played themselves into a position where they could be going to the FCS playoffs, and that was really not consensus for this team going into this season, but they have also been playing really good football, particularly in the second half of the season when Jamison Skinner did end up getting hurt, so Mark Fulton had to move in and play that full-time starting quarterback role. We've also have seen Mario Matthews emerge as well alongside Brian Hurst, so it's a very dangerous backfield back there for Montana. But their receivers can also do some very good work as well, as Mark Fulton throws it just on a slant pattern, or not even a slant pattern. It was thrown to the flat. That was all yak, baby. Yards after the catch. Touchdown, Montana. And the Grizzlies quickly taking a 7-0 lead here in this one. And look at all that space that receiver has. He is wide butt naked open. Ain't nobody touching him. So now 7-0 lead here as Mark Fulton gets another possession. He's going to throw it again over to the left-hand side. Lightning does strike twice as Mark Fulton onto a really hot start right now. I mean, look at this throw. That corner is going step by step with him, and he's still making these throws, making these dots. This is a quarterback that is certainly playing with a lot of confidence right now, and it's easy to be confident when you got playmakers around you. Montana has been recruiting at a pretty high level. They have recruited some very good players, Mario Matthews being one of them as well. They just haven't been able to put it all together, but maybe here in this second half of the season, we're starting to see that happen, and we could see them to where back in season number 1, remember, this is a team that made it all the way to the semifinals of the FCS playoffs. This is a team that actually did accomplish that, and Montana can also add another score on the board here. Last minute here of the first quarter. 14-0 lead already. Will they go to Matthews? No, it's Brian Hurst that gets the carry. Mario Matthews in that fullback spot punches it into the end zone anyways. That's a touchdown for the Grizzlies. And a 21-0 lead right now as Montana on fire right now. Doing it here on the road too. And it looks like that's going to keep happening as well as Mark Fulton throwing another dime down the right-hand side. That's going to go for a huge reception. And what's different about this Montana team, too, is that they have been doing a lot better in the red zone. I know they're still listed outside of the top 100, but when this season originally started, Montana was just absolutely terrible, right? They were just not a fun team to watch in the red zone. I would go so far to say, as they were very boring to watch in the red zone, right? But they finished that drive off pretty well. They get 28-0 on there as Fulton continues his great work until that throw. Kevin Foster does get the interception, and Portland State finally has something to cheer about as they have been completely dog-watered throughout this entire game. And now the Vikings take over at about the 13-yard line as looking over the middle of the field, but that gets intercepted too. So Portland State's best chance to score in this first half, it ends in a turnover as well. You can't make this up right now. That's just tough luck for Carl Pierre, as that does end up getting intercepted. Not taken back to the crib, but it certainly does save a few points on the scoreboard. We will jump into late in the third quarter, though. Last play of the third quarter, matter of fact, throwing over to the right-hand side. Finds Brian Hurst, who throws it right on the money again. That's a running back on the wheel pattern, and there was nobody around him. That was barbecue chicken, and it sets up Montana in the red zone again, looking to extend the lead, and it will be extended. Touchdown, Montana. And the Grizzlies finish the season. They're going to finish the year 8-3, while Portland State, arguably one of the most disappointing teams that we have seen this season, started a year as a borderline top 10 preseason team. They finished the year 3-7. They will have one more game next week, but Portland State, they have just been down horrendous. So one more game in the Big Sky Conference could settle one more spot for the FCS playoffs potentially, as we got the battle for North Dakota. The North Dakota State Fighting Hawks taking on the North Dakota State Bison in a game that could determine an FCS playoff spot actually. Both teams are 6-4 going into this. But North Dakota, unlike their counterparts in the Bison, they are not ranked in the top 25. So both teams definitely need to win this game, but North Dakota, it's win or go home. We'll see if the Fighting Hawks can pull the upset. And early in this game, it was a very close game. North Dakota State, they will, of course, score first there, get into the end zone. It's a touchdown for Garrett Owens. And the Bison quickly taking a 10-0 lead. But with 1 minute left to play in the first half, Owens is going to take the speed option over to the left-hand side. Tries to pitch it out at the last second, but it falls into the hands of a North Dakota State defender at the last possible moment. That is the thing about running the option. You're going to see an uptick in fumbles, and with that, we do also see the Fighting Hawks. They do get a field goal, so again, this is still a very competitive game at the moment. 10-3 does end up being your score right now, as hang on now, North Dakota might be doing something here. In spite of only 25 yards of offense, thought we're going to see the Bison take that back to the crib, but that does not happen. We will now go into the second half here. North Dakota State trying to keep the Fighting Hawks from upsetting them on their home field to end the season. This could really set some expectations up for the Bison, or at least some narratives that they're only ranked this high because of the name that's on their helmet. Listen, they're number 13 in the country and 6-4. It just writes itself sometimes. But now North Dakota, they're just trying to keep pace with their counterparts, but they're really starting to fall apart here a little bit. And that fumble inside their own red zone, really not helping. That is really the last thing that you honestly want to see, that a fumble like that, and especially a team that does know a thing or two about converting in the red zone. We'll see if they can hold it down here on his 3rd and 2 from the 3-yard line, but nobody touches Garrett Owens. He'll find his way into the end zone. Touchdown Bison, and the Bison will score another one. So that does make it 24-3. Closing in on the end of the third quarter, though, Owens drops back again, throws to the right-hand side, finds his receiver there too, and he does also throw a strike at the end zone. It's been all North Dakota State, and how about the unselfish play by Jerry Rice III as well, really setting up that teammate to get that touchdown by making that key block. You don't see that happen unless wide receivers, they don't simply give up if the pass has already been thrown and it just doesn't have to be going in their direction, right? So 1st and goal here for North Dakota State. They do get another turnover on the Fighting Hawks, and they'll hand it off to the running back this time, not really trying to mess around and take names. But North Dakota State, of course, they're going to win this game. Should get them into the FCS playoffs, as they do finish the year on a 3-game winning streak. But the last studio update that we will have here in this regular season, only one game of note here in these later games. Sanford did play their final game of the season. They took on the Richmond Spiders in non-conference play. And Richmond is going to pull off the upset. Richmond winning 30-13, a potential resume boosting win as they try to boost their at-large FCS playoff chances. So with the final full week of the regular season now complete, we'll go ahead and take a look at how the top 25 shapes out as of right now. Top 6 kind of remaining the same. Akron is still sitting at number 1 with slight moves from San Houston State. They're now number 2 in the country. But we also see some good progress for both Tennessee Martin, New Hampshire, Eastern Illinois, Southeast Missouri State is in there as well, and James Madison on top of Sacramento State and Montana. All of those teams moving up 2 spots at the very least and putting themselves in a good spot to compete for a first round bye. Now, as for rounding out the top 10, we have Western Carolina. Western Carolina, they take a pretty big drop down to number 10 after their 3-touchdown loss to San Diego State. We'll see where San Diego State ends up. North Dakota State sits at 11. It kind of tells you what this at-large field is looking like. It's not a very impressive at-large field that we got going on this year, it seems like. Meanwhile, Nicholls State, they're going to be at number 12. They finished the regular season at 8-3. Texas Southern, they're at number 13. They will go into the conference championship game, but they are on a losing streak as they lose to Southern in surprising fashion. San Diego State, after their big win, they move up to number 14, and they already are in good spacing to go for an FCS playoff spot as an automatic qualifier, but this does help their seeding. As for Eastern Kentucky, they move one spot, as does Texas State. They both move up one spot in spite of being on bye. Utah State moves up a couple of spots as well. They are also on bye as well, along with Murray State. Chattanooga moves up 3 spots at the bye week. 7-4 they finished this season. They're at number 19. And then rounding out the top 25 is Northern Arizona. They fall 8 spots from their loss to Montana State. Speaking of Montana State, they get back into the top 25. So that was a really big win for the Bobcats, who might have played themselves into an at-large bid. We'll have to go ahead and see how things shake out with the rest of the FCS playoff field. At 22, we got South Carolina State. They helped their case a little bit, finishing the season strong. Georgia Southern gets back in at number 23. They did beat Florida A&M, but man, the defending champions, they're going to be sitting on the bubble and sweating things out on the playoff selection show. And also sweating things out is Northwestern State. They once again sit on the bubble, losing their last couple of games, a shoo-in a couple of weeks ago. That might not be the case anymore. And then finally at number 25 is UNLV, who does have an outside shot of making it to the FCS playoffs. And then, of course, we have the Heisman watch that we have going on right now, and it seems like Brent Cunningham is running away with it. He has 1,600 receiving yards on the year. He is being chased, however, by Marty Subar, the senior from Akron, who has 1,400 receiving yards and possibly a conference championship to play in as well. Rounding out your field, though, is Dustin Arnold, the junior quarterback from Utah State. And then the senior running back from Texas Southern, Roderick Murray, who was kind of slowed down by the Southern defense. He only had 73 yards and a touchdown in the last one. And of course, sneaking in to the Heisman conversation again is Stephen Terry, who had a pretty good game, even though he didn't play the entire time because it was a blowout. At Alcorn State, he had 234 yards and a couple of touchdown passes. So in week 15, what we will have going on in the next episode, we'll see both of these games between Morgan State and Rhode Island, as well as the FCS game of the week that we got going on, UMass and Portland State. I don't having too big extensive highlights for either of these games, since neither team has a winning record and it doesn't really have playoff implications, but we'll give Morgan State and Rhode Island their flowers for a little bit, as that is an annual rivalry game they've played every single year. We'll also preview the conference championship games, as well as check in on the DeAndre Dowdell Senior Day. Was planning on showing it here on this episode, but with the amount of great content that we had for week 14, we're going to save that for next episode. And speaking of that next episode, I hope to drop that soon. But if you guys enjoyed this one, I need you guys to do me a monumental favor. I need you guys to go ahead, smack that like button for me, and then also hit that subscribe button as well if you have to be brand new to the channel. I would truly appreciate that. But this is John J Gaming on the mic, signing off. I'm hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.